Don, first of all, thank you so much for presenting your film in person. It's not often that we get the chance to see a filmmaker's like near complete body of work at one place and have the filmmaker in attendance. It happens at festivals, but very rarely at places in cities and cultural centers. So thank you so much for enabling this, and thank you so much for Bangalore Film Forum and the Goethe Institute.
Let me also thank Goethe and most of all Vinayak and Bangalore Film Forum for this huge opportunity. And thank you, Srikanth, for being available the whole time. Yeah,
pleasure. One thing that retrospective like this allows is to kind of not look at films as individual works, but a kind of body, and it allows us to see where the filmmaker or the artist is coming from. Maybe we'll begin with that, where you're physically coming from in terms of your childhood. What was the kind of cultural environment when you were growing up? Where did you grow up, and was cinema part of what you were growing up with?
Yeah, so some of you have watched at least a couple of films here, and I'm also coming from that place. It's Idukki in Kerala, and most of these films are shot in Idukki, near my house, near my village.
Yeah. And growing up, were you watching films, or what kind of cultural activity were you engaged in? Reading, was it a part of it?
Yes, see, mainstream cinema was a big part of our childhood. We were, as children, we were always talking about Mammootty and Mohanlal and even Tamil cinema, because for me, when I was watching films on TV, I didn't start with Malayalam films. I watched more Tamil films. So Kamal Hassan and Rajinikanth were very familiar faces. But I started noticing the directors only much later, and I realized that the directors are important only after only after I became an adult, and that's when so that fascinated me, and definitely, you want to be the person who is creating these things, and
that is one desire. You want to create these, but to be a director and to be a filmmaker. When did you make that transition?
See, my original plan was not at all to work in films. My undergraduate was in physics. I wanted to be a theoretical physicist. I was very ambitious about that, but I was very fascinated by relativity and quantum mechanics and all. But later I realized that it was not as easy as I thought it was in the beginning. Also, the academia, the kind of training that we were getting were not to be independent thinkers. We were trained more to be, more to pass the exams. So that passion didn't fade away completely, but I had to put that in a different box. I wanted, I knew for sure that I had to do something that gave me autonomy, and something that was an outlet for creative work. So I didn't know what I had to do. I even ventured into other fields, like I did my master's in IT. I even met a professor to discuss the possibility of doing a PhD there. It was in Tasmania, Australia. I had traveled there, and then on the way to meet him, I took a break and stood there for a moment. I thought about the life decisions and what would happen if I go forward and meet him. I might end up becoming a PhD holder in IT. I might end up working in IT for the rest of my life. I might even invent a couple of things. I might develop something. I don't know what. But I asked again myself if that's what I really wanted to do, and then I thought, I could become a writer, but I wasn't very impressed with my writing. But then I thought, I love films. I love watching films, and I would love to make something like that. But again, I didn't know how to make films. So I thought, okay, as someone who knows nothing about films, I would go to a film school. But at that point, I didn't have the money. I decided to work for a few years, saved up some money, joined a film school. I decided to learn the craft, and at a point, I decided or realized that you don't have to be perfect. You can just be a practitioner at least. Yeah.
I mean, it's the counterfactual is that you may have developed, you may have become an AI developer or something, because it's, I don't know how many of you have come across this article. Don has written a wonderful article last year in Frontline about how he looks at AI's use in filmmaking from a personal standpoint. It's a very interesting article. I encourage you to go and read it. But IT's loss is cinema's gain. So let's get into the film studies part of it. You did your direction course in Sydney at a university. What did that experience bring to you? What changed?
When I joined there, I was very excited to learn everything. I was a blank slate. So, but the training there was more Hollywood oriented. Everyone's aspiration was to end up in LA, start working as an AD, then work their way up as a director or anything else. Some people even just wanted to be an AD. Some people were working sound. One guy who I was studying with, he was already working in a Scorsese film as a sound recordist and all. So everyone was aspiring to go to LA, but somehow that didn't appeal to me. But I didn't know where I wanted to make my films. I didn't know what kind of films I was going to make. Those decisions came much later. Even towards the end of the course, I was clueless, I would say. But when it sounds too romantic and very typical for a film school graduate to say, but reading Sculpting in Time did have an impact in me. And then suddenly I realized that this journey can be more religious, because I am someone who drifted away from the Catholic religion, so I could have this cinema as a religion for myself, and I decided to pursue that. But I had to make my own rules and my own rituals and stuff. Yeah.
I know there is at least more than one fan of Sculpting in Time in the audience.
Yeah.
But let's double click on the theme that you mentioned before we get into each of the individual films, because this is a theme that cuts across all your work, almost all of them, including the film that we saw yesterday, Christianity, which is such a imposing presence. The first two films in a more mild way, but really you're going all guns blazing in the third film. Personally, growing up, what was your experience of religion and religiosity?
You see, bars for me were put too high by my parents when I was a really small child in terms of morality and stuff. So, they told me the stories of saints, especially Dominic Savio and Don Bosco and all that. So I thought, once I grow up, I want to be a saint like them. But I began to look at the system, or what was happening me within that system much later. So the going abroad did help, but before that itself, the transition started. I think I started asking very genuine questions, because those naive questions actually helped me, I think, because I was asking questions about God. About faith, about whatever was taught in Sunday school, I started asking. And in the beginning, these questions were very much encouraged too. But at a point, you started realizing that some of these questions don't have answers. And then I realized that, the how fragile the whole fabric was, and but still, then I didn't understand why people were still following it. Like they didn't believe in these stories themselves, then they are still going to church. Are they smarter than me, or are they dumb? I started asking these questions, and I think I still ask these questions, and but it's more than just about more than just personal faith. I think it's a system of power, system of survival, a system of many other things. Yeah.
I mean, it is certainly more than belief, because there are material aspects to faith, and most importantly, the community. For instance, in family, that we see that it's really the stories of a community. Of course, Sony is at the center, but it's the community that's in which he's moving around. And one more thing that I noticed, I felt in family, is that it's rather a flat kind of community, because Sony is able to access all these spaces, and doesn't seem to be much difference in terms of class and so on. Does it tally with your own experience growing up? How did you perceive the community, apart from the individual faith aspect of it?
There is a social hierarchy, definitely, but Sony is at a very good position, I think, because he is a grown-up man, and he is not a grown-up woman. He is not a child, so he is definitely he has more access to all the other parts of the society more than any of those people, and he is able to play these games. He is aware of the rules of the game. Yeah.
Maybe we'll come chronologically. Let's start with the first film that we saw, which is Shavam. It's about a corpse. For those of you who were not there, it's about a corpse. A man has died, and the social machinery gathers around him, mourners, but also coffin makers, the pandal decorators, the priests, and everybody. And everybody is busy doing their own work. And your camera drifts in and out of small groups who are conversing about things that are possibly not related to the person who has passed away. So what was the starting point for this film? Is it a formal sense? Is it something that you experienced?
No, the starting point for that film was purely financial. I wanted to be Tarkovsky. I wanted to make my own mirror, and but I didn't have the budget. So my friend who was ready to help me with the funds asked me, well, do you have any stories that we can shoot within 6 lakh budget that we have? And then I came up with this. I had written down like a couple of sentences in my notebook in the film school when I was sitting in one of the classes about the difference between the societies, the Western society and the Indian society that I grew up in, and especially the particular society that I grew up in. I was thinking about different occasions where I could bring out these aspects about this society, and I thought a funeral would be an excellent thing, an excellent occasion, because it's almost a taboo. We don't disrespect the dead. We are very cautious about even criticizing the dead. but at the same time, how we, like how hypocrisy is a part of it all. So I thought, it had a material that I could explore very satirically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my original idea was to shoot it in one single take as the camera just flows through all these people, but that also wasn't viable, because actors were all new. I hadn't, I didn't have a body of work that I could show to them to prove that it is, doable. So I had to take the, like slowly and gradually, I had to earn their trust also. So I decided to break it into smaller shots, and we shot in the beginning we shot the smaller shots, and then gradually we went to the longer shots.
Because it's not a film that is anchored from one character's perspective, unlike maybe family, or even family is a ensemble piece. You drift in and out of conversations that whose beginning is probably gone, whose end will probably never know. It's almost as though there is a world, small worlds within each of these conversations, and it's not progressing any kind of plot in the film. So how do you conceive the script in such a case? Because it's like it's series of conversations and moments.
See, I was very sure that I didn't want to shoot a drama, because at that point, I was fresh out of film school. I was, very rebellious in my head. I thought, I would break all the norms. I would make a film without conventional drama or character arc, where the 3-act structure and everything. So I thought of, going against that and doing something else. But nowadays I think I'm trying to do more and more, to fit into that structure and still make it personal in some way.
For instance, you get the sense watching the film that there is more story that you are not revealing. For instance, the character who's written from UK, or somebody who's talking about the laborers being picked up from some place. Did you have a backstory for each of these that you are then removing, or it was?
I had backstories in my head. I didn't want it to be about the stories either. But at the same time, like so that these these people would look concrete, you needed some backstory for them. So I would tell them, this is what has happened to you, or this is where you came from, and this is your attitude towards these people, all that.
Because at first you kind of feel offended that this dead man is lying and these people are just focusing on their own thing. The chairperson has to put in the chairs at that time. He doesn't care what the journalist wants. The videographer wants his close-ups and his good shots. Everybody's so self-absorbed. But also you're looking at nature around the place and you think life goes on. It shouldn't really stop. But then again, life does stop and everybody comes around for that ritual. And then you kind of build that ritualistic intensity, and then there is some kind of commemoration, that mourning that does happen. So watching the film, I was like first angry at those characters, but then understood them, and then actually I was sympathizing. So is this emotional movement? Is this something that you plan for a film like this?
No, I didn't plan it at all. I feel that the central idea that I had was this absurdity, but again, you are not always apathetic towards the people or the characters or their stories or what they are doing. You feel empathy in different ways. Sometimes you feel even anger. But at least I care enough to make the film about these people. So it came naturally. I wasn't that conscious about these aspects.
One more thing that watching the film second time, that struck me was the sound. because the camera is of course moving away from the dead man, but the sound is from the house. Either the crying sound or the prayers are always kind of pulling the viewer back, and it's almost sometimes the volume is
Yeah.
even higher, and you're like, okay, something's happening back home. These guys should go. So there's this tension between what we are seeing, which is almost going outside, and this sound which is pulling us inside the house.
Yeah.
Could you talk to us about the approach to sound in this film?
Yeah, see, I have noticed this about the funerals in my native place too, because a person has died and his family is mourning. We understand that, but but you kind of demand through this constant sound that the entire village takes part in the mourning, and you use the biggest speakers you possibly can get to announce all this. Maybe it's a way of celebrating bidding the goodbye to this man as the last goodbye. Maybe it's justified, but yeah, I found it as forcing empathy to people. Yeah, so I wanted to make fun of it.
Speaking of the funerary rituals, I feel the aspect of rituals is very strong in all your work, but especially the second film that we saw, Seed or Vith. Rituals in terms of prayers, of course, he's repeating the prayer over and over, and the son is also doing that reluctantly later. But there is also a ritualistic aspect in your form. I mean, the boy playing with the ball constantly, repetitions, cycles, and long shots where characters have to perform a certain activity no matter how long it takes. Finish cutting the grass, bundle it, cook, grind the spices, cook it. So it's almost as though we are observing not actions with a specific meaning in the story, but rituals which are end in themselves. So do you think in terms of that in conceiving these scenes?
Yeah, definitely. All three films are about three different aspects of religion too. The second one was definitely more about rituals and the ritualistic aspect of it, and also the power dynamics within a small family that itself reveals about the larger power structure that they are part of, and how this the generational difference. Yeah, and definitely it never made sense to me as a child when I thought that a prayer should come from one's deep within someone's mind, or it should come from a very personal space, is what I thought, and while making this film. And for him, he may not even be thinking about what he's praying. He's more conscious about getting it done, or the ritual, performing the ritual rather. Yeah. So that is a difference I saw between these two people and these two generations itself.
Yeah. And how would you relate that to the durational filmmaking style, which shows actions in their entirety in long shots? And we met a couple outside who also had the same question: why such long shot lengths?
The long shot is used for different reasons. When I think about the reasons for each of these films, but most basically, I think I like it. That's why I like watching long shots, and and whatever reason I make up would be just me trying to make sense out of it. Yeah.
It's something intuitive.
Yes.
Okay. Couple of maybe comments on on what's happening, the subject. This boy who's coming back from the city. He's like a blank slate. It seems like all kinds of values have kind of been vacated out of him. In some sense, he reminded me of the young boy in KG George Iragal, who's also rusticated from college, and he's spending his time doing all these sadistic things. But here it's even that. It's just complete anomaly. It's just, even he's looking at the dog being electrocuted, he's just staring at it, and then of course he has a shock, but then it felt even more violent than if he had killed the dog himself. So what was the kind of conception of this young man for you?
See, I was staying at my home prior to making that film, and I was feeling very frustrated uh, because even when I was 28, I had this pressure, the constant pressure from my family and my relatives to attend Sunday Mass every Sunday. Even when I didn't, when everyone was so aware that I didn't believe anymore, they were like, but just go there for the sake of meeting other people, and so I was trying to portray that frustration through that character, I would say.
Yeah, because the film towards the end almost acquires the power of a parable. I mean, it's not just about this father and this son, but it becomes like this father with a capital F and son with a capital F S, and it's almost that at some point I felt that he was being liberated rather than when there's a fight that's possibly an imagination of this person. There is a dreamlike sequence where we see he's out, and in the end, when he's at the hospital, the son seems to be more at peace with himself. And
Yeah.
going back, he releases the cows, looks like, and the house is abandoned. For me, somehow it felt strangely liberating rather than the other way around.
Yeah, that is how I also imagined at that point. But when I look back at it right now, myself becoming a father, it feels scary. Yeah.
Maybe all rebellious sons become their
Yeah, yeah.
paternalistic fathers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're fathers after all.
Yeah.
You have a music composer credit in the film, Basil CJ, but you hardly use any music. I imagine there is one shot where there is a kind of, I don't even know, it's atmospheric sound, it melds with the effect rather than that. So, can you talk to us about your approach to music in general? Because it's very sparing in all your films, and maybe this in particular.
Yeah, I didn't want too much music. I was very sure about that. But while editing the film, I felt, I knew that music was needed at some point, but the amount of that, I was pretty sure that I wasn't going to use too much. Because I wanted the silence also take part in the storytelling and people to notice things, even the minute sounds sometimes. But when Basil came in, I was lucky to get a composer who is ready to work at this very minute capacity. He it's not one place, actually it's like three or four places where his music is used, but it's blend in with the sound effects of the film. So even a high frequency note, it's not done by the sound designer, but it was worked with Basil.
And I have to ask you about that long landscape shot,
Yeah.
just before we come back to the hospital scene. It's a long shot, and the music there goes till about half the shot, and then it's live sound.
Yeah.
Could you talk to us about that? And the shot in general, that shot in general.
Yeah, that would be, I have reservations about talking too much about it, because it would be revealing too much, about what I intended. Because I'm more curious about what other people felt after watching the film or what they get from the scenes, even if it's complete opposite of what I intended. And, I think that conversation is also important because it's much more interesting and exciting than you telling one thing and hearing the same thing back.
Yeah. Which brings me to wonder whether you have an audience in mind when you're making each film. Is like a kind of, do you kind of have play with the audience perspective in some way? Do you have that in the back of your mind while you're making films?
Yeah, someone like me, a soulmate.
You make films yourself, you're duplicates of yourself.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Yeah, so, and which brings us to Family, which I think is your most recent released film, and I think it's really powerful as well. But two films have happened in between, so that history will maybe discuss tomorrow.
Yeah.
But one major change is that you have a professional actor in Vinay Fort. Could you talk to us maybe about working with actors in all your films, but let's say somebody like Vinay Fort?
Yeah, I was glad that I approached Vinay because we had this conversation quite a while ago after my film Santoshthinte Onnam Rahasyam, which is screening tomorrow. Vinay sent me a message on Facebook, I think, and then we started talking, and then he asked if there is any film that we could collaborate on. At that point, I didn't have any story in my mind. But later, at a point, I even told him a story, but I myself didn't like it later. So we didn't go forward with it. But when this script happened, I completed it and I approached Vinay. And I asked whether he would be interested in doing this role. I wasn't sure because I didn't know which actors would choose a negative character and all that. So, but Vinay was excited. He was very receptive and he was quite excited about the role. He himself started looking for producers. I was also looking for producers. And yeah, once we started the process, one great thing about Vinay was that he kept on asking questions. He would ask me a million questions about the character, his intention at any particular point. I could see that he was not just asking for the sake of it, but he was trying to understand the character and get into the skin of the character. And he did quite well, I think. And he had some suggestions regarding how the mannerisms would be like. And I wasn't very sure about those. I would say, okay, let's try that. And we would try that. If it doesn't work, I will suggest something else. But if it works, we will keep that. It was a very collaborative process, and we both enjoyed working with each other too.
One thing that is so strong about his performance is that he never lets us know what we should think of the character, right? Which is how people behave. It's even though he knows that it's kind of negatively shaded character, he's not conveying that. He's not positioning the audience to observe the character in a certain way. He's what he is. So is that something that you worked around, but was it something that's brought by Vinay? How did that happen?
That was in the script itself, actually. So when we started working, when we were shooting, in the middle of the shoot, it was not in the order of the film that we shot also. So Vinay was even commenting in between that I came to act in a Don Palathara film, and I feel like I'm acting in a Satyanandikad film, because all that the guy does are good things. But even though he joked in such a way, he was always conscious about each scene and what the character should be, what the hidden agenda was behind every scene. So like I said, he would keep on asking questions in between shoot.
And how do you cast your secondary actors? I mean, is the physical quality important to you? Do you look at their body of work? I'm not talking about the extras or so-called extras, but like the secondary characters, the character actors.
Depending on one aspect, though, like if they have dialogues, I prefer to cast people with experience, because I have realized that then it's much easier for me to make a quick change, for example. If I say that the emotion should be different here, or let's make a change in the dialogue, someone inexperienced would have a difficult time in changing the performance entirely within the scene. But an experienced actor would give me an entirely different performance for a different take. But when I'm working with inexperienced actors, they're fresh slates, and I can mold them into anything I want. But at the same time, it's a long process. It takes more time, and you would start rolling the camera probably on the 10th take or something. So until then, it's a rehearsal.
And with live sound, I imagine it complicates things, because there's a way you have to move, and it's like a dance.
Yeah, and filmmaking is unfortunately a very expensive art form too. So we have to sort of keep the money in mind every day. Like the lesser day you spend, the better.
Yeah. Maybe one last question again on acting before I open it up. How hands-on are you in molding performances? Do you write it down? For instance, in a scene with Seed, the father character is talking to the son across the table. He says something, and then there's a sentence, mid-break sentence. He gets up, goes out of the frame, drinks water, and we hear that, and he comes back and tells completes the sentence. Are these things that you kind of write it even in the script level, or
see, these are pre-planned, and for when I was working in Vith, and especially for Vith, I was very particular about what I wanted to achieve. I was dictating even the movement of the characters, the blocking, even when he's just cutting grass and walking, I had a very specific path for him to walk through, and how much grass should he carry. Everything was very pre-planned. But later, as I probably maybe matured, I can't say matured, probably as I evolved, I have decided to let go of many things, and now it's more collaborative, I would say, because especially and actors are very intelligent people too, and once we explain the scene, and once we do the rehearsals, and once they get into the character, they know sometimes the characters more than I do. That is applicable to Vinay, Reema, Kallingal, Jidin, all these actors that I have worked together with in the recent past. And so I let them show me that. And if it feels, totally not right, I would definitely talk to them, and, I would ask them to try something else, or I push them in a different direction.
Right.
But a director should be someone who directs, not someone who dictates. I think that's what I think now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really insightful.
Yeah.
I have more questions, especially about collaborations and technique and so on, but I'll come back if you have time. I want to invite the audience to share their questions, comments, impressions, doubts, whatever you have.
So two questions, right? First, the scene when he goes to in family, when in the 3-day camp, right? When it starts with the sermon and then the disco music. Are you afraid anytime we are putting the scene like that, like in a very the film that has been maintaining a serious tone for a certain chunk of time, right? And is building to something more severe, and you put something that is so funny. Are you ever afraid about that tone balance that it will, and how do you judge that, this is the right point to put this very funny thing in there?
I don't have a definite answer for that, but the film is not entirely devoid of fun.
No, but at that point it has been building for a while, right? all the serious conversations have been happening for last like 20-25 minutes, and then and you're thinking that it is building to something serious, and then suddenly it bursts into that scene where I just could not stop laughing over the entire thing.
I'm glad that you laughed, but there are moments to laugh earlier too, is what.
Okay, second question. So you have already obviously talked about your upbringing, right, with the church and everything. Now you have since changed a little bit of your mind about since your childhood about religion, but the influences of the maybe the Bible that you studied are they still in your work? Because in Vith, right, the father trying to kill his son on top of a mountain, that is just Abraham and Isaac. And in family, when the couple is hugging and the snake goes by, that's Adam and Eve. So how do you, is it a conscious thing, or is it unconsciously your studying of Bible coming through in these images that you're creating?
I think you have studied Bible quite a lot, because these are I haven't consciously constructed them as Adam and Eve, or Abraham and Isaac, but it's quite interesting to hear these parallels too, because when I was imagining that story, that part where the struggle happens, the reference that I was thinking was about Joseph, traveling to the desert and fighting with, God, or the messenger of God, or the God himself. Yeah, that is the kind of fight I was, and it's very dreamy too. So, yeah.
But you did put the snake there, right? When they're having...
No, it just came. The snake actually. We just found the snake on the spot when we were shooting, and then we decided to put a camera there. Yeah, that's actually what happened. It was not in the script. Yeah.
Are you making fun of me, or are you serious?
No, seriously. Yeah. It's a coincidence, and there are many coincidences that has happened in my films, and that's exactly the reason I told you that recently I have started exploring these coincidences more. With actors too, whatever they can give, sometimes very unpredictable things. If I dictate everything, the fun is gone.
So 2 questions. One is, I think, specific to 1956, where I think it's a story about stories, and then do you feel about language, right? So when it's getting translated, a lot of things get lost in translation, so subtitling, especially for 1956, becomes important. So I felt like there were a lot of subtle humor that might have gotten lost to a non-Malayali. So is that something that you are aware of, especially for 1956, and is subtitling something that you consciously get involved in? So that's one question. Second question is with respect to Shavam, because every frame, there are a lot of characters just coming in and going, but it's also characters, almost everyone in the frame doing things, right? So how did you sort of manage that or choreograph that? Because if there are 10 people in the frame, there might be 10 or maybe 7 interactions within the 10 people. So, and that's across the film. So how was managing that, or how did you carry that out?
Yeah. So to answer the question about subtitles, I do have a, it's a concern, and I do get involved in the subtitling, but still I'm not quite happy with the subtitling, because, English is not my first language, and I myself have problems while translating very, very local nuances. When you try to translate that, it gets lost in translation. To answer your second question about blocking these characters and the camera in Shavam, I drew mud maps. And using that mud map, I went and talked to each one of these people. I would say, and when you break it down to each character, it becomes very easy. You can, you have to deal with one person at a time, or one interaction at a time. And then, and again, what the camera sees and what the camera doesn't see are quite different. So while the camera is moving, I can ask one guy to move from there to here, so there can be activity and other things happening behind the camera too. But the success of a filmmaking process is to make the illusion of reality.
Yeah, hi Don.
Hi.
So you mentioned Tarkovsky twice.
Yeah.
So after that, I'm wondering the cow rescue scene, does it have a trace of the well lifting scene from Under Mueller?
Maybe, but I don't remember
You
that.
thought of it,
I hadn't consciously thought of it, but definitely, that it felt heavy. Yeah, while doing that scene.
And
Yeah.
just another question. So besides Tarkovsky, with the credits also you mentioned Sokurov and who are the other filmmakers who have influenced you most?
Yeah,
Because I do see influence.
I respect Sokro for the way in which he doesn't stick to one particular style, and how he tries to reinvent himself or the reinvent his form all the time. But and then and again he still likes long takes and all. So yeah, Ceylon was, I used to admire Ceylon a lot, but not that much right now. Yeah. Then Bellatar is definitely someone whose films I really admire. Wim Wenders. There are so many to name. Ozu. Another filmmaker my favorite right now is that his name is not coming to my mind immediately. The Polish.
Pawlowski.
No.
Pawlowski.
No. The one who makes very fast cuts. Jonas. No, he's not from Poland.
Lithuanian.
Lithuanian. Yeah. Jonas Mekas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here.
Anybody with a question?
Hello. So I'm a very conventional movie watcher, like Hindi films, English films and all. But seeing Malayalam film industry breaking boundaries from the last 5 to 6 years, I'm a big fan of Malayalam film industry. And your films have also opened a new avenue for me to explore more. So, as an independent filmmaker, also working on low budgets on these movies, I would like to attempt the meaning of that long shot in the movie with that whole nature scenery part. 2 cows are on the other side. So, one cow is on the left and the other cow is on the right. So that represents father and son who are on the different sides of the of an argument or of nature. And as the father exits the frame with the load on his head, that left cow makes a sound, something like that. So that might be something that the father is telling to his son that you please listen to me, but the cow on the right side doesn't respond to it. It just raises the head. So is this the meaning that I'm perceiving? Is the right meaning, or it was just beautiful shot and shot like
Yeah, there are definitely no wrong meanings. It's absolutely okay that absolutely great that one is reading so much into the meanings and
because that frame lasted for around 5-7 minutes.
yeah.
So can you
I can't like I said Srikanth earlier, if I explain it too much, it will become just one meaning.
But that might be something 2-3 words.
Okay. One thing is that, I'm going to explain one thing to you. You don't really see the father exiting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next question, sir.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah.
I just had a follow-up question on the point of cinematic inspiration. To what extent do you allow artistic influence, artistic inspiration to make its way into your filmmaking process? Is it how you view shots? Is it how you write certain scenes? I just was curious about how your personal relationship to that.
Hey, that's a quite interesting question. I'm still figuring that out. Sometimes I'm even cautious about that. It shouldn't be an imitation of just a master because I like his films a lot. It should have some personal touch. But again, sometimes it's a frame. Because of the beauty of that. And sometimes I would just shoot it, even if I'm not planning to use it later in the edit. But it's good to have that thought rather than not have it at all. And so these. But again, there's another philosophy of another filmmaker I admire, who says that you should. It's better if your eyes are virgin. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not completely sure about either of them. Yeah.
Hi. We're asking this because I noticed in both Vith and Family, the camera lingers a little bit on the windmills. Can you comment why you chose to linger on this?
With it did have a thematic meaning assigned to it in my head at least. And in Family, it's more for the poetic, lyrical moment of that. But nevertheless, these windmills are part of the geography there, and they are a majestic presence there.
Is it the same windmill?
Yeah, they are the same windmills. Or the same set, we have around
farm.
Yeah, windmill farm of 12, 14 of them. Yeah.
Scenery so nice, you got to use it twice.
Yeah. I might even use it again.
Yeah, Bill, next question's here.
Yeah. In the first movie, Shavam, the dead body, Thomas, he has had an extramarital affair, and the partner, the girlfriend comes in. But the society, the people around the house, they don't react at all, except for the wife. She's obviously disturbed by that, but the people around don't really pay much attention to that. And I feel that's not very realistic in the current society, right? So, was that a conscious decision on your part to ignore that side, people not reacting to it at all? Because the Kerala, people would jump on it. So, yeah.
Well, it would be a different film then, but it's the way, there's no one particular reality again, we experience Kerala differently, and for me, my thought was that ignoring her is a better way of dealing with that, for the society itself.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Hello. I just wanted to ask about the commentary or the criticism of Christianity in particular. I think in Shavam, there's a priest coming and kind of asking for money during the funeral, or maybe in Family, there's an undercurrent of that. So I just wanted to know how comfortable you are with that, and are you conscious of the backlash you might get if maybe someone from the church would be critical of it.
Well, that would be free publicity for me. They are not that dumb. Yeah, because after making Santhoshthinte Onna Rahasyam, there was a backlash from one particular sect of Catholicism. They were one sect of people. They made a YouTube video against this film, and they specifically mentioned the film's name and all. At that time, we were struggling to promote the film. We didn't have budget, and it got more views than Rima Kalingal's interview. So, yeah, we were quite fortunate. But then they didn't give it for family.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you think it is very
Please take the mic.
do you think your stand on video to show in its raw or naked form, do you think it is important? And what is your limitation to take, the backlash? How resistant are you towards this?
See, putting all the jokes aside, I think that everyone's perspective is important. See, I have family members who are highly religious, who have great experiences to talk about religion, who may not have survived without religion. I think their point is also valid. But at the same time, I strongly believe that my stand is also valid, because if I am telling my truth, that is also valid.
We have one or two last questions, maybe. Do we have time?
Yeah.
Hello. I have a question about how you write the dialogue. So recently I was doing some translation into Malayalam, and I realized that there are certain subjects where we are behind the discourse. So there is that one scene where the pregnant woman, I forget her name, she's trying to bring this issue of Sony up with the older lady, and she's sort of saying that what she observed, and the older lady responds with saying, oh, it might be this and might be that. And during her, when she's sort of making excuses for it, she says, she uses the word overprotective. And I thought that word was a little interesting, because from what I could tell, this film is set in the past. And I just couldn't imagine someone using that word in a conversation like that. I would imagine she would just get angry and dismiss the conversation. So is that something you think about when you write it, where you think that, oh, I can't picture this person saying it, but you still write it anyway?
No, I can picture them saying that, because, see, this, even though it's a kind of a period film, it's not that old. It's about 2000s, because you see people using mobile phones in the early forms of that, and we have put hints here and there about the time, even though we don't deliberately say that this is exactly this year. The references are there. Again, about dialogues, the writing process is, I think that every character should have a reason, it becomes interesting if they have a reason to say the things that they do, and if they have a backstory, and if they have a motive during the scene. And they don't, and if someone likes to, for example, if I like drinking water right now, if I just grab it and drink it, it's over. The scene is over. But if I wait, or if there's an obstacle, which I'm trying to overcome in using different words, then it becomes more interesting to watch or listen.
There are one photograph in the family. So they are related. You didn't take time to introduce who is related to the family tree. We don't know. So how did you arrive at the decision? Let them be there, and we don't want to introduce their characters, uncle, auntie. How did you decide that?
Yeah, I had a very clear picture of who was who and what each of their relationships were. And I even probably started writing the script after drawing the family tree. How many members are in the family, who belongs to who. So, and then it becomes almost like an epic, and it's very interesting form to explore.
Yeah, we suppose we have come to the end of the session. So on that note, I'd like to thank Don Palathara for presenting the 3 films today, and thank you.
Thank you, Srikanth. Thank you for being available for both the days.
Pleasure. And do not forget that we have 2 more films to go in the retrospective. Joyful Mystery we watch tomorrow, followed by Everything is Cinema. So please be there, and there will be a conversation again with Don. Yeah. Have a nice evening and good weekend.
Thank you all for your valuable time. Thank you for the great question. Thank you for staying back after watching the films to reflect on it more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.